I don't know about a few. So NASA in 2011 was supposed to study the Elias effect, the Foucault's pendulum, and the eclipse thing. And they're supposed to do it at 11 sites around the world: Japan, United States, blah, blah, blah. Nothing. Just a web page up saying they're going to do it. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah, where's the data? I couldn't find anything on that. But I mean, maybe I could use an AI. AI is more, it's a better searcher than I am.
I like AI, the training data and everything. Like it's probably embedded with so much delicious, like dark web kind of stuff.
By accident.
Exactly. So I was
And
looking for.
I'm glad I talked to you, man, because now you got my brain thinking, dude. Like seriously, because I was like, when I was flying, I'm like looking down, I'm like, that shit don't look 10 miles away. Like, you know what I mean? It's like that shit's
Yes, yeah,
tiny.
yeah. I know what you mean. I've experienced the same where distances don't match either way. You see too far, or you don't see far enough. You should check this out. So commissioned NASA commissioned a study of the horizon using Sophia. Did you know about that?
Oh no, I did not.
Oh, yes, they did. And you know what else they did? A few years ago, they took down all the imagery and all the data, and you have to now request it.
For Sophia or for
Yeah,
that?
for the Horizon study. They set up a web page. The web page was live. Now you can't access it anymore because they took it down and it's
Mm.
not in the Wayback Machine or anything.
There's a few things for NASA that, like, I don't know about a few. So NASA in 2011 was supposed to study the Elias effect, the Foucault's pendulum, and the eclipse thing. And they're supposed to do it at 11 sites around the world: Japan, United States, blah, blah, blah. Nothing. Just a web page up saying they're going to do it. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah, where's the data? I couldn't find anything on that. I mean, maybe I could use an AI. AI is more, it's a better searcher than I am.
I like AI, the training data and everything. Like it's probably embedded with so much delicious, like dark web kind of stuff.
By accident.
Exactly.
I want to bring this on, but we should not talk about that freaking helicopters be flying over my house.
I feel like I've already said too much.
Yeah, I mean, no, this day I just thought I've been researching something like, why are they using written text to make large language machines? There's probably a lot more spoken word. Why don't you just train it on the spoken word, right? And they could take all the information that they've been sucking up off of the phone lines since the 1960s, and then make a gigantic fucking LLM off the spoken word. The thing will fucking probably be a super genius, right? And like, why aren't they doing it? Because they are doing it. That's why they already done it. Dude, think about like especially after 9/11 when they just started sucking up all the information on the internet, all the traffic. They haven't trained any, as far as I know, they haven't trained any like these LLMs on people's emails and shit like that. Because the problem is they're running out of information to train the shit on. Well, where are you gonna get more information on the English language? Well, there's a spoken word. You can train it on the spoken word. And people speak different than they write. So that's a whole nother rabbit hole of stuff of that they could train this on. You could even have it just suck up all the data from like Newark, New Jersey, man. And the next word predictor will be nigga. Every third word.
Well,
Fucking dude.
you know how like there's Grok and then there's Gork.
Yeah.
Gork is trained on a spoken word.
Yeah, dude. But it's just like, why wouldn't they train it on the spoken word? They have to be doing it. I did find that some have tried this, but none of them have been released. And it looks like it was researched, including by Meta, and then just like 2 years ago, boom, stop. So there's like nothing after 2 years ago that I could find. That doesn't mean they stopped. It just means I can't find it or it's not publicly out there.
The training data resides in a meta layer of abstraction well above all this technology, and I think the training data is golden. The training data is what's most valuable.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. And the weighting of all the ontologies within that framework. So
Because
my notebook
there's a
LM is
large.
convinced. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we have a large corpus of human text, right? Of shit that people, things that people have written down. But the amount of speech that happens every day, you know what I mean? That far
Without offering
exceeds anything that's
commentary.
ever been written down.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's probably sitting on a freaking dude. There was a story about uh, a drug trafficker, and they ended up bagging him in like the something like the early '90s, and everything was circumstantial, but they had a recording from him that AT&T had sucked up in 1974 before he was a drug dealer. They were just like sucking up everything, even in the '70s.
Yeah.
But it was more based upon location. So like they were sucking key phone switches, switching stations where there would be traffic. Like if someone's doing something naughty, they would get let's say you know all the switching stations near Los Alamos or something like that. All the phone switches. But you remember they're back down to physical switches. They just suck up everything, record everything. So if something happens, they can go back and because people used to use payphones and shit like that. You know what I mean?
Of course.
What a nightmare that must have been.
Of course. Why they had to
What
grab
couldn't
everything.
happen? Yeah, what a nightmare. Yeah, but thanks to that, I'm gonna look. There was something else too, though I can't remember. I ran. We. It's funny. I was on X on Friday on their Flat Earth Fridays, and they were talking to some satellite person supposedly, and then that just fell apart.
I heard
His
about
story
that. I
just fell
wasn't
apart.
kidding.
He was a clown. I'm a satellite engineer, but you don't know simple stuff about anything else. You barely know about the satellite stuff.
The real satellite like drivers and engineers, you'll never know who they are. They won't talk about it.
Yeah, probably not. But he was using like Josh tactics. You know what I mean? Almost not identical, but yeah, just about identical. The same like talking, using lots of words but saying nothing, and
Yeah.
like using like you know technical terms that in the wrong context, and they don't even know what the hell they're talking about.
Maybe it wins government contracts during the orals presentations.
Maybe, but I think there's people that they're just science communicators or want to be science communicators or something. I didn't know when that became a job that people wanted to do. I want to be a science communicator when I grow up, mommy. That's
I
pretty good,
guess when
Matrix.
you're done watching James Baker, you can tune into Neil deGrasse Tyson, televangelists of all kinds.
Well, who do I send my money to?
Oh, well, your taxes go to and your indulgences go to
My forced tithe to NASA.
something I brought up the other day, dude. My notebook LM is absolutely convinced that the P2 bomber is using the B fuel Brown effect and leveraging it for propulsion.
My goodness gracious.
I can't convince it
Look, I've
otherwise. I
heard that
tried.
though.
I tried. I can't get it to stop.
I heard that they were using on the wing edge, and I heard this like it's
Yeah,
because the Biker Brown effect.
exactly.
I did a lot of research, and so using the wing edge, the leading edge, they're using the bifield Brown effect to ionize the air and separate it at the wing to make
Precisely. And then the turbofans blow negatively charged ions out the back, and that creates a really long sheet. So now you have a differential that's like, whoa,
man, that could be a really long sheet.
like a contrail.
Yeah, but if you could keep it actually
Tight.
like a flat sheet, yeah, a tight flat
Mhm.
sheet, dude, you could probably generate a lot of force, for lack of a better word. Though you might be generating too much force and airplanes start going backwards.
The Earth ain't flat.
How do you know that?
Oh,
because
it's PD. Welcome
I'm
back,
right above
PD,
it,
huh?
dude. I'm right above the Earth. I can look at it.
You're right above the Earth.
Oh, come on, I want to
Or you
listen
can
to
see it on
today's
YouTube.
scope.
Toby's gone.
Oh, yeah, think about it.
So I want to read what Notebook LM says about this real quick. I hope this is interesting for you in the audience. All right. I said, what can you tell me about the B-field Brown and the B2? It says, the B-field Brown effect discovered in the 1920s. This is some context for people out there that need to know. Dr. Paul Alfred Beefield and his student Thomas Townsend Brown refers to a phenomenon where an asymmetric capacitor, a device with two electrodes of different physical dimensions, are separated by a dielectric medium, experiences a net propulsive force when subjected to a high voltage electric charge. So they charge the leading edge tip of the B2. Brown discovered that when voltages ranging from tens of thousands up to 300,000 volts are applied, the apparatus moves in the direction of the positive, smaller electrode. Brown theorized that this effect demonstrated a direct coupling between electromagnetism and gravitation, a field termed electrogravitics. Decades later, researchers and aerospace experts proposed that the principles of the B-field-Brown effect were secretly applied to the Northrop B-2 bomber. In March 1992, Aviation Week and Space Technology published disclosures from quote-unquote black world scientists and engineers claiming that the B-2 actively utilizes electrostatic field generating techniques by charging its wing leading edges and its jet exhaust stream. According to Dr. Paul Laviolette and other proponents of electrogravitics, this configuration essentially turns the B-2 into a massive electrogravitic vehicle. The proposed mechanics of how the B-2 utilizes the B-field-Brown effect are as follows. 1. Creation of an electrogravitic gradient. By applying a high positive charge to the leading edge of its wings and injecting negative ions into its exhaust, the B2 creates a potential difference estimated to be in excess of 15 million volts. This ionizes the air, forming a dense cloud of positive ions ahead of the craft and a trailing cloud of negative ions behind it. According to subquantum kinetic theories, this charge distribution sets up an artificial gravity field, specifically a matter-attracting gravity well, in front of the aircraft and matter-repelling gravity hill behind it. The bomber effectively surfs the self-generated gravitational wave, producing a reactionless, forward-directed force. Number 2, high K dielectric hull. To maximize the effect, a system requires a heavy, high charge accumulating, high K factor dielectric material. Black Project Science has revealed in this article that the B2's radar absorbing material, ramskin, is constructed from a dielectric ceramic made of powdered depleted uranium. This material has a specific gravity of 17.5, nearly 3 times the density of barium titanate dielectrics tested in the 1950s, enabling the hull to function as a giant high voltage capacitor capable of exerting an enormous electrogravitic lift force. 3. Flame jet generators. The B2 is officially powered by 4 GE F118 GE100 jet engines. However, it's theorized that rather than providing conventional thrust, these engines act as a flame jet high voltage generators. They use the jet exhaust to efficiently eject negative charges from the craft, while the overwing exhaust ducts act as a collector grid to recycle high voltage electrons and power the leading edge ionizers. Next, aerodynamic and stealth enhancements. Beyond propulsion, charging the leading edge creates an electrostatic buffer that deflects the oncoming airstream. This helps to reduce aerodynamic drag, minimize the abruptness of the sonic boom during supersonic flight, and significantly alters the aircraft's thermal signature, making it less visible to infrared guided missiles. There's more, but I'll stop there. Like, holy shit, that's plausible to me. Like, I hope I don't
Yeah,
get black bagged from this.
I know. You could reverse Santa Claus. You're gonna end up in the bag. Um. So was that STRO crystal? Is that what you're talking about? Strontium, titanium, or titanate? What is it? Barium. There's two of them. They're like these super rare fucking crystals that are. I can't remember the names of them.
I'm not going to say anything.
You just mentioned it.
Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, they kept it rather bland. So
The
they talked it,
strontium titanate or whatever
yeah,
that you
which
get.
is uranium, and yeah, and so it's
Which
a
is
ceramic made of
uranium.
powdered uranium. Yeah, but there's more. I think there's more to it. What's interesting to me is how uh it's been theorized that jet contrails, at least it wasn't. They accused let me backtrack. They accused the Chinese of using jet contrails as a way to disperse agents that are created from nuclear weapons testing, so that they can disperse it out and thin it out and get rid of basically the evidence that they've been testing nuclear weapons.
The Shawshank Redemption fucking theory of getting rid of nuclear waste.
Yeah, just
Put it in your
spread it
pocket,
around, man.
spread it
Hope
all
no
over
one
the yard.
notices. Yeah, yeah. And so
My
this is why,
goodness.
like, when Alex Jones tests the freaking contrails dust that comes down, it's like it's full of barium and strontium and iodine and da, 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 da.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I send you something in DMs. I don't know if I've sent this to you before. It might be something you'd interested in checking out. It's related to this.
Oh, nice. No, I've not seen that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's nothing, you know, ground earth shattering, but Now, there's another important element to all this. So the key thing about an asymmetric capacitor is that it's asymmetric. And I think what we're going to find out as, scientifically, that the geometric configuration of whatever we're doing affects the results of the experiments. That people, they just look for forces in any bland old way, right? Well, we're going to set this up. We're going to look for forces. Well, maybe trying to detect forces with like a sphere versus a cube versus shaping the thing into a pyramid or some other geometric form, and then reacting it to something else, right? So, just think of the case of Cavendish. It's two spheres. Well, you're going to get the same result if it's two cubes? Of course we will. Of course we will. How do you know? How about if it's two pyramids? How about if it's two, some other shape? I think that there's like a missing variable in all this stuff. And
What
I
do you mean,
think
like
the
the
evidence is
geometric
really,
configuration
yeah,
being
the
that
geometric
variable?
configuration of whatever you're doing, like even especially like with electricity and stuff, that the geometric configuration affects the whole, what's actually observed in any particular experiment.
Oh, affects ice? That's interesting.
So what if we do a Foucault pendulum with, what do they typically use, a ball? But if sphere
Yeah,
is just like directly, you don't fucking curl your toes. The ether in a certain, I'm not adopting the ether. Don't go too far, dude. I'm just saying.
yeah, I know.
This is a totally hypothetical. If there
That's
was an
fine.
ether,
I don't care.
I don't believe in the ether. I'm just saying. I don't like. There's no evidence for it at this point. Could exist, maybe don't exist. I don't know. I need more evidence. I'm undecided. Um, and that's not a diplomatic position. That would be the position I took regardless. Um, what if the configuration? I mean, this is it's like I said, like the asymmetric capacitor, like it directs the voltage a certain way that creates, a force. I'm still not on ionic fucking propulsion, dude. I'm still not on that. I know they say it's ionic propulsion, but I'm just not buying it. I don't think that's
I don't
correct.
think it's, yeah, I know. I look at this, I'm like, they they say
Because
they're
I've
doing
seen
it.
experiments where
So it's
they
a
put
hostile witness.
they put the cathode in a vacuum fucking tube, dude.
Yeah. So they
And
leveraging
it
what
still
standing
works, right?
voltage. Yeah.
Yeah,
Standing
I mean,
ohms.
technically it could still work, like, a bit, but like, so there's, there's the electrode, right? There's the top electrode. There's the wire, basically, and they
Hmm.
encapsulate that in like a plastic tube, and then they evacuate the gas out of it, and they make their little triangle of the lifter, but but the cathode is in vacuum. Now, I
Yeah.
guess technically, the plastic that encapsulates the wire could be charging up and creating the ionic lift, and the ions could be created on the surface of that. But I don't know.
I don't freaking know.
And then there's another one where they use, for the bottom one, they use rolled aluminum foil, and when they turn it on, the aluminum foil goes up
Yeah.
toward the wire cathode, but then the whole thing also picks up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. Where their theory is that it flows from the cathode to the anode, and with the anode being the larger surface area, but it looks like that it's going the other way. That the flow of whatever that's making it go somewhere is going the other direction. But that's another thing where the geometric configuration of the lifter changes the way it behaves.
Probably has to do. Yeah. I mean, geez, I'd be talking way out of turn to, yes, surface geometry does matter, whether it's like an open or closed surface. So what are they
This
using
is
as a surface? Yeah. In space.
this
I
is
don't
some of the
know.
stuff Robitaille's been saying. Pierre Robitaille with his sun
Yeah.
hypothesis about the. He's been saying that, like, well, you can't have a black body. That whether something has a black body emission or not depends on the geometry of the lattice of the molecules, and that it doesn't depend on the other stuff, right? How many atoms or neutrons, electrons, protons, right? None of that atomic stuff is what matters. It's the actual geometry of the lattice which holds it together, and only certain elements can have a hexagonal lattice. There's carbon. There's that crystal you were just talking about can form. It's like it might be boron, can form a hexagonal lattice, but of course under certain conditions. It's not normally that. You need, I think, high pressure, high temperature or something, or to be what would you call it, deposited in a certain way. The crystal has to form in a certain way. And what they say is like what Robitaille's saying is hydrogen under high pressure and temperature will create a hexagonal lattice. So, and this is the thermal emission spectrum, right? This is the fucking black body radiation. That you can't have a true black body, or what they call the true black body, because it might not even be a true black body. You got to think about all the testing was, all these tests that were done to define what the black body spectrum is based upon using carbon soot. Okay, the carbon soot has a hexagon, the graphite, right? That has the hexagonal lattice. They fit their curves to that, but only that can actually emit that spectrum, even though theoretically there's other ones that should do it. I don't know how much you're familiar with what Robitaille's been doing. He
I've
did a
seen a
bunch
few
of these.
videos over the years. I know who he is and know
Did you
what he
see the
talks
thermal
about.
spectrum? Did you see the thermal spectrum test he did?
No.
So he drilled out blocks of metal and then shines a laser into the hole, right? So it can only reflect around, right? And then, or no, he heats up the block of metal, and then out the hole, right? You're gonna get a thermal spectrum. You're gonna get a spectrum. Now, what they did to make these curves is that they coated the inside. This is basically the same method that they used back in the early 1900s. You coat the inside with carbon black to get the
Yes.
absorption.
Yeah. The radiometers are use those. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But what he's saying is that, like, the only reason this is even working has nothing to do with whether the fact it's carbon. It's the fact that carbon has a hexagonal lattice, and that the lattice itself is what creates the emission spectrum. Now, his thing about like things like this is very interesting. That water, say you got water in the sea, right? That's not a that's like we think, oh, there's a liquid, it's all mixed together. He said that the water is actually layered because water is like a is actually there's two forms of water in that they don't mix together because of the atomic structure has like the dimers, right? So there's like H it's H2O, but the configuration of that molecule has different geometries, and that those geometries, in the particular case, water just happens to be weird. Normally, they would still mix, right? So that there'd be no like they would diffuse, they would be perfectly mixed together. But water will actually form planar sheets between of so you'll have a layer of one geometric configuration of water, and then a layer underneath it, and then a layer of the other one, and they'll alternate, which is crazy, dude. It's like anyway. The point is that even at the atomic level, like at every level, the geometric configurations of matter change the
Yeah.
way matter behaves, and we've just been like
Yeah.
ignoring it or pretending it doesn't exist because it's already complicated enough. You're gonna add a
Yeah. I see
variable.
where you're
Oh,
going.
let's add the geometry variable so we don't fucking understand anything, right? Like, you know what I mean?
I know where you're getting at. Okay, I've heard the phrase like structure determines function.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
ice
yeah,
has like 20 different forms or something weird like that. So
yeah,
yeah, okay,
yeah.
dude.
Structure determines function to a degree. It isn't everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It probably means more, as in like down, like at maybe the molecular level. It has more influence on downstream stuff, but that influence doesn't change when you get to bulk material. You know what I mean? So if I take so copper has its own like a crystalline cubic structure, right? But then if I take copper and I wind it into a fucking coil, that structure will mean something. You know what I mean? But like it doesn't have like super duper downstream effects, right? It does if you do certain things to it, right? I mean, look, imagine you made like a solenoid, and you could do this instead of having loops, right? You made those loops squares. I just use squares because the obvious, antithesis to circles, right? So it's just manufacture a bunch of all connected, right? So they're connected square loops, and it's going to have the same effect. What is the magnetic field going to look like? All the electricity is
Um,
because electricity, the electric field, coalesces at points, right? So the shape of the electric field is going to be completely different than if it was a freaking continuous curved coil. You know what I mean? It's just stupid. Like, I don't know. I'm just spitballing, dude. I'm not saying I reached any conclusions. I'm just throwing it out there. I just think it's interesting.
yeah,
Say the least.
geometry does matter for this kind of thing, because it determines the coherence of fields, and that's how you can create like a magnetic field through coherence and getting everything march in the same direction. So I'm thinking right now. I like the piezoelectric effect. You take a crystal, you squish it, it changes the geometry, and it produces electricity. Right?
Exact. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I
Well,
like
have you ever
that.
seen the magnifying transmitter like Tesla? Like the diagram that's in the patent. Have you ever looked at that?
Not specifically. I probably have seen it, but no, not specifically.
So on the top, it's like a hemisphere, but then the surface of that hemisphere is also covered in hemispheres. So it's like a reverse bumpy golf ball. You know what I mean? Golf ball has little divots inside. These divots point out, right? So it's like the relief of a golf ball. And the purpose of this is because an electric field will coalesce on a point, right? Sharp edges,
hmm hmm
points. And his idea was to charge that top metal piece up with as much charge as possible. Basically, almost like a what do you call it? Like the Van de Graaff generator, right? You're trying to get a lot of charge on the surface. So basically, it's almost like a Van de Graaff generator, but he adds more surface area because he has hemispheres on top of the hemisphere, right? So he can get more charge on it than just having a ball. You see what I'm saying? And you can probably add
Yep.
like little hemispheres to those hemispheres if you want to. You know what I mean? That's just more of a manufacturing problem than anything else.
hmm
But the point was is that the geometric configuration of this would create not new physics, but what you're able to do, right? So he'd be able to create a gigantic charge between the air and the ground. But all the charge, he has a charge collector way up top that is a huge with a huge voltage potential. And his idea was to charge that up and dump that charge into the earth, basically. In
All right.
in
Pumping.
timing, right? With
Yeah.
a, like pumping. There's literally in his diagrams, that's what he shows a pump. And with the analogy, Jay, of pumping up like pumping up a balloon and then releasing the contents of the balloon. So what he's doing, he's pumping charge into the collector and then releasing it into the earth over and over again. But you can only do that as if the geometry of it is a certain way. You couldn't do that if it was all spiked. The charge would jump to ground, right? It would just jump everything, right? You would just get a gigantic spark.
Just thought of something. You know how when airplanes land, they need to discharge. If you have like somebody touch it, they'll get blown away and zapped.
Really? I was wondering
Yeah.
about that. I didn't know if that was like I was thinking like they must get a huge triboelectric effect of just flying through all the dust and dirt and all that crap at 1,000 miles an
Yeah.
hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You got to. Now I know you got to discharge.
Actually,
It's the same.
really?
Yep.
Did,
Uh-huh.
who does that?
Jimmy Will in here, Jimmy Neutron, tactical droid guy. Um,
Yeah,
he's in here. He works in the aviation industry. He was talking about this once, and I'd heard the same thing too. Um,
pretty good evidence why the moon landing's fake.
yeah.
Is the Earth electrically neutral to the moon?
Hmm. I
Hello?
don't
Is
freaking
it?
know.
Think about it. Is it? Is it electrically
No,
neutral to the moon? Why
it
wasn't
can't
there
be.
like a
Yeah,
gigantic spark that kicked up a
it
bunch
can't
of
be.
dust so it has a freaking path? You know what I mean?
Yeah, in the globe world, yeah, in globe world, yeah, there has to be. There has to be like, yeah, that's a big charge differential, dude, between the two.
So I have a question.
Yeah, go
So in
for it.
in schools and in kind of science, we've been taught that the Earth is round. Um, so is there like what's happening? Why are they telling us this?
Okay, let me grab my crystal ball and read their minds. Oh, I'm drawing a blank. We're not mind readers, bro.
I have to step back. I need to do some work, but I'm here. I'm listening. So take care, guys.
Okay, your teachers teach you the Earth is a globe because they're paid to.
Yep.
You think they know? So the people that taught you
Um,
the Earth was a globe, do you think that they did any experiments to confirm that?
Probably not. I don't think they
Okay.
had the budget.
Yeah. So why are
They
they
still
telling you
could.
that?
Well, if I had to guess, they're probably getting it from scientists. No, what I understand, they do some of the research.
So you think those scientists did tests to determine the Earth is a globe? The scientists that they learned it from.
If I had to assume, I would say yeah.
Well, I've talked to plenty of scientists, and I've yet to find one that did any tests that the Earth was a globe. They all just read it in a textbook or whatever, hear from their parents, and they all just parrot it. Even the PhDs. You'd be surprised, dude. Well, you shouldn't be surprised. They don't know anything.
But I think
They're-
isn't it their job to like actually experiment They're trying to find out. Like, and I'm not saying like the scientists
No,
themselves.
they think that's all been figured out. They think Christopher Columbus or whoever figured it out fucking 600 years ago. They don't need to do that again.
Okay.
I'm just telling you.
Um,
We've talked to PhDs in this very chat, scientists, you name it, of every possible profession at every level of expertise, and they all, like you, think there's somebody out there that did these tests.
well,
But we
let me
never
ask you
find the
this:
people
why
that actually did them for some reason.
all over the world, all over every country, they all the scientists there agree that the Earth is round.
So, what does that matter? They all agree. I don't care. People agreed about a lot of things during the pandemic, right? And they were all fucking wrong.
But does that mean it's untrustworthy? Like scientists, if it's their job to find out,
They don't
and their
know
job is to
anything.
calculate physics, math, all sorts of
Look,
factors.
dude, you're like deifying these people like they're gods.
No, I think the scientific consensus, it's not the it's not the harsh truth, it's not the reality, but I think they're trying to work on
It's a
it to make it
consensus,
as
but it's
accurate as
not as
possible.
okay. I get it, but it's a consensus, but it's not a scientific consensus. Okay, the only scientific part about it is they're all scientists, but that doesn't really tell you. The consensus should be some experiment, some observation, because that's what science determines science. Nowhere in the scientific method does it say step one, trust the scientists. Science is based upon experiment, observation, measurements, things like that. Okay, and if you talk to
You
any
say
individual scientist and you ask them, do you know now who in the past or in the future, or who now or in the past measured the Earth to be curving? They don't know. Who measured the Earth to be spinning? They don't know. How do you have gas pressure without a container? They don't know.
are you saying
Dude, I've
scientists
been
and
doing this
teachers
for 10 years. I've talked to at least 500 scientists. At least 500.
they're saying scientists and teachers all over the world are like they're lying
They
to us.
don't know anything. That's what I'm saying. They don't know anything. They've never done any experiments. They learned it just like you did, right? They were taught in school the Earth is a globe, right? Do you understand?
Hmm.
And they're parroting it like you are. But if I go, how do you know the Earth is a globe? They can't tell me how they know. All they can say is, I don't know. Somebody else knows. Somebody else did some test.
Then why are they
That's what
getting
you're
paid
telling me.
to
You
spread
don't know.
misinformation?
What? What'd
Why
you
are
say?
they getting paid to spread misinformation?
They don't even know it's misinformation.
Yeah. So who's paying them? Who's letting it go? Who's going through the fact check then?
It's a tradition. Who pays people to fucking tell kids Santa exists? Nobody. It's just a tradition that gets spread like a rumor. You know, and sociological arguments can't prove whether the Earth is flat or not. Your incredulity about what people would or would not do does not tell us whether the Earth is flat or not. Want to know what tells us whether the Earth is flat or not? Going out and doing tests. That's what tells us.
You're saying
Tests that you
scientists
yourself
haven't
can
done
do.
that. You said scientists haven't done that.
No scientists I've talked to.
You
They
have,
all
but
think that somebody else
overall,
did it. Which scientists? Who?
all over the world.
Yeah, this is what we call the magic science guy fallacy. You think out there somewhere there's some magic science guy that did some test. You have no idea what test they did. You have no idea who they are. You have no idea when it was. But you're sure there must be someone out there that did this.
I mean, it has to be a possibility. So many people in the world, so many scientists in the world are getting paid.
Dude,
Absolutely, is someone who has done it.
dude, you're a wreck, bro. You're a logical wreck. You did appeal to majority, appeal to consensus, appeal to credentials, appeal to authority, and now you're like appeal to possibility. How many logical
Well,
fallacies can you actually use in a single conversation?
well, I'm trying to understand exactly, like
You're
the exact
using
reasoning.
fallacious reasoning.
Why exactly would they be spreading
Why you're using
misinformation?
fallacious reasoning, I have no idea.
It's you that's assuming that it's lies and stuff,
Matrix, you
mate.
take over, dude. I gotta go do something for a minute. No, I'm serious. I've been putting it off with Yoder, then this guy jumped in.
Oh, fair enough.
You got
that's
this?
all right. DJ's here too, so that's good.
Oh, word. Rest in
Yeah.
peace. Fucking making a cross for you. You got the
So
Australian
who was it
crew.
we're chatting to? Orbmas.
Orbmas, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So just out of curiosity, since you're so hooked up on science, which field of science deals with shapes?
Well, I'm not sure.
But yet you're appealing to something now that you're not sure of. Like what? You can see how
Yeah,
quickly
like I'm
your
not.
belief system gets broken down. You're starting to actually think now, which is what we want you to do. We don't want you to be a believer. We want you to think for yourself.
Mhm.
That sound fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So at the moment, you were fed the same pile of crap that we all were at school. Earth's a ball in space, blah, 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 radius 3959 miles, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you were taught in metric. Happy days. Well, if all these claims are true, then we should be able to just go out and measure it. Measure the ground, see if it's dropped over distance. Solved.
Yeah. So all the people, all the employed scientists haven't done any of that.
What scientists are you referring to? Please feel free to
So-
point the finger.
But I don't know. You're saying that scientists don't know. They think the Earth is round.
So let me get
They've
this
done all the
straight.
calculation, all the.
You've just stepped back into appealing to scientists after I asked you which field of science deals with shapes. You said, I don't know. So how can you appeal to scientists if you don't even know what scientists you're going to appeal to? So which field of science deals with this shit so we can directly address them?
Well, let me ask you this: if we delete all the scientists,
No. Which field of science deals with this shit so I can directly address them? Physicists?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure.
So, yeah.
So how
I'll
can
say-
you
I'll
appeal to
concede-
something that you're not sure of?
I'll concede to your point.
Excellent.
Well,
What question did you have?
Yeah. So I have a question. So let's say if we deleted all the scientists, they all got removed. We got new sets of scientists who are now doing actual research. They're going out there. Do you think the Earth would be like what do you think their answer would be? Is the Earth flat or round?
It's all based on how it's measured. If it's measured and the result comes back as round, round it is. If it's measured and the result comes back as flat, flat it is. It's that simple, bro.
Why are the current scientists thinking the Earth is round?
How did they end up measuring? What was their results?
I'm asking you.
It's your
You're-
hypothetical, mate. I'm not some magic mind reader. You tell me how that they measured it from the results, and I'll tell you what they'll say.
Well, you've done the research. You know more about this than me.
Oh, we just do measurements. I wouldn't say it's much research.
What makes the Earth flat?
The lack of curvature, measured that way. That's what makes it
All of
flat.
them. I think that every government, every government in every country, they think the Earth.
What
is
about the
round. Why
government?
is it that? Why is that?
Mate,
Why is it that
seriously,
every country thinks that the
I don't
Earth
know
is
what
round?
country you're from, but I'm from Australia. I'd be impressed if our Prime Minister could tie his own shoelaces. So please don't tell me that he's sitting there, the top dog, pretending that this is some kind of monumental lie and that he's orchestrating it. Like, seriously? Our government are a pack of morons.
So, why does every country think the Earth is round? Every
Why do they
scientist.
think it's round? The same reason you do, because that's what you were taught. And you've never questioned it before.
What were we taught?
You were taught that it was a ball tide flying through space.
Really?
With a radius of 3959 miles. Maybe you were taught in metric. Who knows?
That still doesn't answer my question. Why does every scientist in the world think? That doesn't make any sense. Is there like corruption? type
Okay,
of
this is how it works. If I teach you that cats are purple and everyone in your life says cats are purple, that's exactly what you're going to think. When you walk into our forum and we're saying cats come in all sorts of colors, you are going to argue black and blue, cats are purple, because that's what I was taught. Well, guess what, my good friend? Scientists were all taught a particular thing. The same bullshit you were taught. If you can't comprehend that, there's nothing I can do for you. You're all taught the same thing. Now, this is where it becomes fun. You get to make your own choices and go and test and see if the shit you were taught actually lines up in the real world. It's totally up to you.
Yeah. So all science in the world is fake. Yeah.
No,
This
that's
is
not what I
good.
said. That
No
is
one's
not even
saying-
related to what I said. I never mentioned anything about science being fake or not.
Yeah. Well, the scientists who think the Earth is round,
Or
they're not real scientists.
Orbmas. Most of the scientists, right? Obviously not all the scientists, because there are a lot who are flat earthers. Okay, which we can point you to their research. However, what most scientists do is they get taught the Earth's a globe, right? When they're young children, like we all did, and then they think it's a globe their whole life, right? Then they go to university. It gets further reinforced. Okay, then their job at university is to pick a particular field that they want to study. Okay, so they want to be they want to work with spectroscopy or something like that, right? So they're going to get a bunch of textbooks. And then their job is to memorize and regurgitate those textbooks on the exams, okay? And to understand what the textbooks are saying. And then they're able to go and do their job. It doesn't mean that they're lying. It doesn't mean that their professor was lying to them. They're being taught a particular worldview, right? A mathematical theoretical model. And then they're learning a specific task in it. Okay, they've probably never questioned the globe. They've probably never gone out. They're not going to get into university and all of a sudden they're like, well, hold on a second, professor. How do we actually know that the Earth is a globe? It's not a question that they're going to ask. right? They think it was worked out thousands of years ago by some ancient Greeks. So it doesn't mean everybody's lying, okay? It just means that people are being taught a particular model, just like we were, and they're learning a particular field, you know. And look, this really isn't a scientific question anyway. This is about geometry. This is about measurements. And when we actually go out and test the model, we're able to see things, right? When we take long distance observations, that would have to be hidden behind the curvature of the Earth by a huge amount consistently. Okay, and we've got hundreds, if not thousands, of tests that are being done now. Some of these tests done by high-level engineers and scientists, okay, and they're not able to find any curvature. So when we actually go and test the globe model, it fails the tests, right? And we're just here to show people, hey, look at the tests, criticize the tests, try to debunk the tests, go and repeat the tests yourself, and you'll see that the globe doesn't match reality.
Oh, fair enough. Oh, let me ask you this then. Why would they be teaching us the Earth is round?
Because
Is
people have
there a
been
reason?
teaching that, okay, because
Didn't
that
you
the
start
people that are
there?
teaching, yeah, look, the people that are teaching that it's a globe were also taught that it was a globe by their teachers, who were also taught it was a globe by their teachers. Okay, and this is going to be pushed back all the way 500 or 600 years ago, right? If not a little bit more than that. So that's why. Okay, if you look into the history of a globe, it's not because some scientist went out and did some scientific research and measured curvature or something like that. That didn't happen. That's not how the globe model got, started in the first place. So people are teaching that it's a globe because they believe it's a globe. They've been taught that you experience the Earth as completely flat, but really it's a globe because we're so small and the Earth's so big. Okay, and they also get taught that we don't feel it moving. We experience it as flat and stationary, but really we're too small and it's so big we just don't feel it spinning through space at all these different speeds that it's spinning in.
Does that make the majority of the world ignorant about the Earth being round?
Yeah, literally most people that we talk to on this topic, they don't even know the radius value, they don't know the speed. It's just a belief system that people have, right? Most of the people, like literally like 99% of the people we talk to, they don't know anything about the globe. They just believe it's a globe because that's what they got told growing up and they never were presented an alternative to that. So yeah, it's ignorant, right? And we can prove they're ignorant because we can ask people the most basic questions about the globe and 99.9% of the time they fail, right? It's just a belief system. It's like a tradition or something like that. And then the people that do know it, right? The people that seem most knowledgeable on it in general are the flat earthers because they have to research it, right? You have to know what you're debunking, obviously. And then the scientists that we talk to, like I had a conversation for hours with a physicist the other day from Germany, and he wasn't able to prove the Earth's a globe, right? He ended up asking us, what do you think I can do to prove it? Like he is just believing what he got told. He's doing his specific job, right, in his specific field, and he'd never really thought about it. He just stumbled in here. He was just in this server in the English hub and he saw this channel. He thought, hey, this will be funny. I'll go talk to some stupid flat earthers. And then 2 hours later, he was explaining to us how, wow, I can really see why you guys believe this, right? Or treat this as a knowledge because you actually have tests that have been done. We're not asking people to believe the tests, right? Look at the tests, scrutinize the tests, and you can go and do these tests yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I'm
like,
just trying to understand perspective. Like,
well, think about
I've just
this.
been taught all
Well,
my
this
life.
is super simple. This is the most simple way I can put it. If the Earth's a globe, there has to be a certain amount of curvature. Okay, and so if you go to a large body of water, like a lake, and it's 10 miles long, we can calculate how much curvature there should be over the lake, right? And it turns out that it's 66 foot over 10 miles. Okay, because of gravity, because of the radius value, you can look that up. That's the correct amount, 66.67 feet of curvature over 10 miles. Now we can just go and test for that, right? It's a huge amount of curvature. It's like a 7-story building. And when we go and test for that, there's zero curvature present over that 10-mile lake or 10-mile section of the ocean consistently. And then we can go test a 20-mile lake. We can go to a different country and do it again and again and again and again until we've compiled all of these tests that are impossible on a globe, right? Because that curvature has to be there. You can't just have some flat lake somewhere on the globe, right? It contradicts the model. So when we're able to zoom in across a 10-mile lake and see the shoreline on the other side, and then shoot a laser across the lake and hit a target on the other side, the curvature's not there. So if the curvature's not there, right, that's a big problem for the globe model, the current globe model.
Well, how did you first get into the flat Earth then? When did you first find out?
I first found out about it in 2017. Heard someone talk about it, who I respected a lot. I thought they'd lost their mind. But because I knew they were smart, I thought, okay, I'm going to look into it a bit further. I'll watch the videos they recommended. Lots of good points were made in the videos. I thought, okay, I'm going to be able to debunk this pretty easily, I think. Right? Surely all of these scientists and engineers have got some pretty rock solid evidence, you would think. And then the more you look into it, you'll realize that's not the case. And then I started looking at the long distance observations, the laser tests that have been done by experts that are trying to debunk the globe. And they weren't able to find any curvature. So I'm like, hey, that's crazy. Okay, I went and bought a high-powered zoom camera for myself. I lived right next to a giant lake, so I had access, right, to do my own observations, and I did my own observations, and the observations that I made are completely impossible on a globe. Right, I did it to confirm it for myself, and now, what, like 10 years later, 9 years later, there's thousands of tests that have been done. We've had PhDs like Dr. John D trying to debunk flat Earth and becoming flat earthers in the process. He's a scientist.
What's his name?
Right?
Sorry, John
He's got a
D. Like,
Dr. John D. I can share his YouTube channel. He's got amazing laser tests, long distance observations. He's got a PhD in spectrophotometry, and he took a bunch of his lab equipment and started trying to debunk flat earthers, right? Because there's a lot of flat earthers out there, right? Hundreds of millions at this point, right? When they do surveys, countrywide surveys, yeah, there's a lot more than what you think, actually. But yeah, we've got teams of engineers going out doing tests with tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, right? Like field engineers. Core is a group of engineers, and they went to some lakes in Europe, and they used an expensive laser, a $20,000-$30,000 laser, and they were shooting the laser over the surface of the water, trying to find the curvature, right, over 40 kilometers distance, and they were able to hit the target on the other side of the lake with the laser, which wouldn't be possible on a globe. There should be about 100 meters of curvature, stopping that laser from hitting the target. So yeah, there's tons of stuff that's been done. Sounds stupid at first, but once you look into it, it's not so stupid.
well, what's in the edge of the world then? Let's say if it is flat, how do we
Well,
not fall off? I don't know how to explain it probably.
Yeah, so we don't think that the Earth is like a big disk, like a flat planet, right? Most people think of the heliocentric model, right? Like the globe model of the universe, the current model of the universe we get taught, and then they hear about flat Earth and they try to, switch the globe for a flat planet. Okay, that's not what flat Earthers claim. This is a completely different cosmology, a different system. So we would say that the Earth is like the foundation of the system that we live in. It's like the ground, the baseline, right? And that if you have a large body of water, right, like a lake or a sea or an ocean, for example, it's where the water gathers in the low spot in the ground. Okay, and then that when the water settles, it's completely flat on the surface. So if you have a large body of water, you need to have a container, right? So if you can get to the edge of the ocean, wherever that may be, you're always going to find a shoreline of some kind. Now, I don't claim to know the entirety of this Earth that we live. Right? I don't claim to know the shape of the Earth. Right? Flat's not a shape. Flat's just the description when we measure over the surface of water. Right? So.
And the extremities of scientism cosmology is also unknown.
Exactly. Like when what's at the edge of the universe, that kind of thing. They have no freaking idea. They can't even agree on what shape the universe is. Right? There's a lot of unknowns to this amazing realm or Earth or whatever you want to call it that we live in. Right? This Earth system, I like to call it. But what we do know is that water needs a container. If you want to have a large body of water, you need to have a container. And then the water will be flat on the surface, right? And when I say flat, I don't mean perfect. Okay, I mean not curving over distance, as would have to be the case if the Earth was a globe. Does that make sense or not?
Yeah. I have another question. So let's say you said there's hundreds of millions of flat earthers now. Do you think that number is going to go up or down?
Yeah, it's going up like crazy, right? So they did a whole series of surveys back in 2018, 2019, 2020. And the surveys basically came back in a lot of countries about 1 in 10, right? About 10%. So for example, Brazil, right? Brazil was 7%. And that was in, I think, 2018 or 2019, something like that. I've got the surveys saved, right? Proper government surveys. And they did it again in 2026, and now it's 22% came back on that. So yeah, if you do the numbers on that, right, it was 1 in 10 Americans as well, 1 in 10. And this is a long time ago, so it's probably way higher now, right? Because this topic is much bigger now than it used to be. Most people that you talk to now have heard about it, at least. And yeah, France was 1 in 10. Romania was 1 in 10. And some were less. So it just depends on the particular country and where they did the survey, I guess. But yeah, there's a lot more than what you think. It's not when you meet someone you wouldn't know, because they're not gonna tell you. They're not gonna talk about it when you just meet someone randomly.
That's interesting.
But I guarantee you, once you look into it, the evidence is pretty compelling, to say the least.
Yeah.
right? Like if we
But
can go to like a 20-mile lake, and I can zoom in across the lake and see the shoreline on the other side of the lake, and I just see flat water the whole way across. That isn't possible if the Earth's a globe, but that's what happens.
well, what do you think? So many people, well, no, kind of answered it with the tradition. But let's say, why do you think people are so in tradition then, and not want to learn
Well,
about,
most
like,
people have
not being
just
able to see it?
Yeah, it's because that's what we get taught from a young age, and we don't get taught two different options. It's not like you get taught flat Earth and globe Earth, and then you get to choose which one makes more sense or which one has better evidence. You just get taught the Earth's a globe when you're young, right? You're so young. Young people will just believe anything, right? Tooth fairy, Santa Claus, globe, whatever, right? And then they don't question it, right? It gets reinforced through the education system, through the movies, through the media, as you're growing up. So most people, it's like it's just a deeply ingrained belief system. They've never questioned it enough to even think about it. I remember before I even heard about flat Earth, right? I'd done a bunch of flying in, long distance flights. And I never even considered when I was looking out the window, right? Is the horizon flat? Is the horizon curving, etc.? It didn't even enter my mind at all.
Yeah, I think
Now,
And those who do question it,
now,
because there's been plenty of children who do question it. The children who do question it, they're chastised, reprimanded, and mocked.
yeah. Yeah, and scientists won't get funding if they don't stay within the current paradigm, whatever you want to call it, within the current cosmology.
Dogmas.
If they go too far outside of the building blocks of that, right, or the base fundamentals or foundations of the globe, right, they're not going to get funding.
yeah. Yeah, I was gonna ask. Yeah, I was gonna ask. So would you call yourself a skeptic then? Being skeptical about what they teach us in school. Um,
Well, I
what do you
didn't
think
used
it
to
is?
be. I didn't used
Yeah,
to be, but now I've gone and done my own testing. Of course,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
yeah.
So, what do you say are some of the factors that could make someone much more skeptical? I
Well,
wanna
looking at the
dream really.
evidence, going over the logic as well, but learning about the globe as well, right? Learning about it and actually learning about it and being critical about it, right? Like, okay, well, this is the claim. How did they actually validate that empirically, right? What did they do in the real world to physically test that claim is true? Okay, like who measured the surface of the Earth to validate that it is actually curving? And you would think that thousands of people have done that over the last couple of thousand years, but you're not going to find anyone, right, throughout all of history that's gone out and actually measured Earth curvature, right, drop over distance. Most often, you're going to find claims of it where they've basically made assumptions and then did calculations based off the assumptions, right? And it'll be some ancient Greek guy that you can't really even confirm ever really did anything. It'll just be a story. It's like, oh, Eratosthenes measured a shadow angle on a stick and he did some calculations and worked out the circumference value of the Earth. Okay, then look into that story, because that's the person it'll tell you when you type in who measured the curvature of the Earth. It's going to say Eratosthenes. He lived 300 years before Jesus, and and he did this particular test. And then, okay, look into the test, right? And once you look into the test, you realize that he just made a bunch of assumptions and then did some calculations based off a bunch of assumptions. So it's that's why I say it's like a mathematical, theoretical, conceptual model. It's not based in reality. It's not based on empiricism.
And
So
just
what,
really appreciate that last detail that he told you about Eratosthenes, in contrast to someone like Jesus and the Apostles, where there's no one, there's no body of literature that comes close to having the robust textual or manuscript evidence. Close to that, the second closest being the Iliad. They'll take something as seemingly spurious concerning the second-hand or third-hand accounts of Eratosthenes without
Hello, everybody.
question, built a rock-solid fact, but not the people who are far more evidenced and attested by historical manuscript data. So that's another detail to keep in mind.
Hello. Anyone here?
Yeah, you could hear Banana. You could hear someone talking just then, right?
Why can't I hear anything? But you guys have a green, like, the hell?
Yeah. So do you have any other
Anyways.
questions, Orbis?
Um,
Orbis?
I mean, yeah, I think it is quite interesting actually hear from your perspective about how the Earth is flat. really have any arguments for like a round Earth. More interested about people. I think like how I said, if I went in to do the research, like I think my personal opinion, again, I could be completely wrong, but I'm just talking through my intuition. I think I would find out the Earth is round, but you know,
Yeah,
maybe not
that's
the-
what we thought, right? That's what every flat earther thought when they first heard about this. Okay, quite a lot of flat earthers were like, "Oh, this is stupid. I'll be able to debunk this in a weekend." Okay, and then 6 months later, you're doing deep research and you're like, "Damn, I cannot prove that the Earth's a globe. This is crazy. What the hell is going on? How could people be so misled?"
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we encourage. Try to prove the globe.
Specifically, when
but-
you do the research, you get to a point deep enough where you're shocked at how weak the argumentation is, and that's from a mindset that's you get that shocked feeling when you're still in the mindset like, yeah, it's a globe. I'm just looking into it. I just want to know. I just want to look into it. Then you look into it. Sooner or later, you come to a point like, this is shockingly weak. This is shockingly weak argumentation or weak rationales behind trying to infer to the conclusion the Earth's a ball.
So,
Why do you think it is, Gregory?
If let's say if there was some
Why do
new
I think
evidence,
that is the
like, let's say
case
if they
that,
were
that
able to,
happens?
let's say if there's some new like, could you see yourself becoming a globe earther again?
Oh shit, no.
Is there any possibility?
It's possible. Should they actually find the curvature?
This is the thing. I mean, if you measured, right, if you thought that you were 6 foot tall, people told you that you were 6 foot tall your whole life, but you'd never measured yourself, right? And then you check your height, right? You measure it, you confirm it, you repeat the test, right? You can use a whole bunch of different ways, and you can confirm really you're actually 6'5". You're not 6 foot tall. Okay, you can confirm that. It's a measurement, right? And if someone came up to you and they'll be like, "Oh, do you believe that do you ever believe that you're going to be 6 foot tall again?" You're like, "No, dude. I measured myself. I tested it." So it's kind of like that in a sense. It's probably a silly analogy, but we've gone out. We've got that many actual tests that are being done where we can physically see things that would be hidden by hundreds of feet of curvature in all sorts of different conditions and different scenarios using different types of high-tech equipment, right? That curvature has to be there. If the Earth's a globe, it can't not be there, right? Like if there's a 200-foot hill between me and you, right? I shouldn't be able to see you, right? Under no circumstances will I magically be able to just see you standing on the baseline on the other side of the hill, right? There's a giant hill in between us. That's the same thing with the globe, okay? If I'm standing 20 miles away from you, there's a giant mound of freaking globe Earth in between me and you, 266 foot worth. So I shouldn't be able to zoom in and see you standing there on the other side of the 20-mile lake, but I can. So obviously that 266-foot hill isn't going to be there.
Sorry, DJ. What was the topic?
We're talking about how we have long-distance observations that are impossible if the Earth's a globe.
Didn't know you did that.
You know, if there were, right, say we've got all these tests and we can present you the tests, high definition videos, technical PDFs, all sorts of different documents, we can provide you with all the empirical evidence to back our claim up. Maybe if there was a whole bunch of counter evidence to that, right? If globe earthers were going out and they were measuring curvature consistently and they had thousands of tests that measured curvature, okay, and then we had all these tests that didn't measure any curvature, maybe then it would be like, okay, what's going on here? But that's not the case, right? There isn't these thousands of tests where globe earthers are going out and confirming that the Earth's a globe.
Bring up their emotional pain when faced with the counter evidence and or the critiques and refutations against their beliefs. At that point, it's like, what is really going on here?
At the beginning, you said, since it's a tradition for us to, I'm kind of repeating, but it's a tradition for us to, or for us to learn about, Earth is round. But like, do you think there's like an ulterior motive? Why there could be I don't know, maybe
Hey,
brainwashing?
Orbmas. Hey, Orbmas. Can I just ask you a quick question? Because you've been kind of repeating the same question repeatedly in different forms. Can you repeat back to us what DJ has told you?
No.
The last question he said already? I didn't hear him say it.
So, Orbmas, do you understand at all why we're flat earthers? beyond doing your psychological study or whatever, did you pick up on any actual information? Because the Earth is flat regardless of us, right? We're not the factor in determining it.
Yeah.
Okay, so what did DJ convey to you that our position
Anything.
is?
I mean, I don't remember. I wasn't really listening. I was mainly just
That's
listening
what I
to you
thought.
guys talk. Yeah.
Well,
Again, yeah, I mean,
maybe
you can
maybe
tell
you
me
were
if it's
listening,
fine,
but maybe being caught on the spot is just
it's also like I'm letting it really
disrupting
sink
you.
in.
I mean, you just heard him say that we see farther than it was possible on a ball. Basically, you're gonna explain all that.
Yeah,
Well,
there's
he
no
didn't.
perfect
He
proof.
didn't
You
say he
can't
heard
see
all
it.
that.
There's
Yeah.
no
So
like there's no
Orbmas,
videos, images, anything like that.
no
And
videos or images of what? Orbmas.
there's been a bunch of like tests and all you guys have done and other people have done.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, we have.
Like that's that's how you get it.
That's how we get that the Earth is flat by measuring the Earth as flat. That doesn't seem
Yeah.
very, yeah. But you came in here. When I first talked to you in the voice check-in, you said you were here to debate, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but instead you've just been like interviewing.
So I mean, is there anything wrong with
Oh,
it?
well, that's not. Well, just let me get to my point. But yet you haven't listened to our position, nor have you presented any evidence for the globe.
Yeah.
So why are you here?
Well, you said it. I'm interviewing.
Yeah, I mean, basically, yes. You're interested in us. You're not interested in what information we have to provide, right? You're not interested in whether the Earth is flat or a globe. You're just interested in us.
Yeah.
Like we're in an aquarium and you're staring at us, and the Earth can't possibly be flat. But your mind is not open to the possibility whatsoever.
Yeah.
So why are you here?
Well, it's interesting.
Why is it interesting?
Because I think I mean, again, I do think the Earth is my intuition tells me the Earth is globe. Obviously, I don't have any research facts, but I think if I was to do the research, oh, I could be completely wrong, and the Earth could be absolutely could be flat. Well,
So what
It's just
about your
what makes you intuit the Earth is a ball.
what does your intuition tell you when all you see and experience is flat and stationary?
yeah, I think well, I'm looking at it like if a bunch of scientists have done peer reviewed
That's not
research.
intuition. That's not
Oh,
intuition.
no,
That's an assumption.
let me just say like if they've done the research, like all that, like I'm gonna believe.
When all you see and experience is flat and stationary.
Yeah, I think well, I'm looking at it like if a bunch of scientists have done peer reviewed
That's not
research.
intuition. That's not
Oh,
intuition.
no,
That's an assumption.
let me just say like if they've done the research, like all that, like I'm gonna believe the scientists. Like if
Okay, well,
like let me ask you. Sorry.
well,
But
that's
that's not
not
an intuition
intuition.
either.
Yeah. Hold on, Gregory.
Oh, okay.
So,
Sorry, English is
so
not
it's
my
not
first language,
intuition.
but this
Okay,
assumption,
yeah.
then sure.
Intuition would be like a gut feeling about it, like your own sense of something. It's not necessarily a logical understanding. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the same assumption that we all did at one time, which is that the work has been done. And DJ already went over this with you very thoroughly. But what I hear in you is a reluctance to actually look for that evidence.
Yeah.
So, there's different types of people, and some people just don't want to know, and maybe you're that kind of person, right?
I think
But the rest of us are here because we did want to know.
like after this, I'll do some more research, absolutely. But I think
That,
overall, if like let's say if every country, every scientist disbelieved that the Earth is
Okay,
flat,
I've got to know, what is your hang up with these scientists?
well,
Because
they're getting
every
paid.
single time anyone has mentioned anything, whether it was myself, Indio, DJ, Over Fences, Gregory, you have defaulted back to basically, I believe in scientists. So if the scientists got on the 6 o'clock news tonight and said, sorry, we broke it up, we got it wrong, it's flat, have a nice day, are you just going to go, yep, it's flat, I'm good with that?
I'd have to look at the information. If that's
But
what they say,
the scientists said it. They're standing on the news, they're the ones that said it.
Yeah, then I guess the Earth is flat. Then it's like yeah, I would agree.
So why are you
I
appealing
get-
to
I get-
scientists? You were told earlier quite clearly that this is not a question of science, it's a question of geometry. So shouldn't you be appealing to mathematicians?
I guess yeah.
Yeah, don't, because Matthew Learns is one of them. It won't do you any favors.
Look, would you just believe anything they told you? Essentially, like if they told you it rained diamonds on Uranus, right? Would you just believe them?
I would have to. Well, of course, I'd have to do more research about it. I wouldn't not like face value. Of
Well,
course, I
even
think
if it was some crazy claim like raining diamonds on Uranus.
I mean, well, it depends who says it too. Like,
The scientists,
can't
right?
say
Just
every
say like
yes,
a bunch of scientists did a study, and then an article came out, and they're like, "Hey, we just figured out that it actually rains diamonds on Uranus and Neptune. Diamond
yeah, I
rain."
think yeah, if a bunch of scientists said it, I would probably have to delete it.
Right.
So in summary, like what we've heard you say so far, like the pattern of replies that you said so far, you talk about the scientists the same way Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, etc. talk about their
Yeah,
clerics. You're talking about them in the
yeah,
same way. So that's what
yeah,
they're asking.
yeah, yeah. I would say so. Yeah, I would also say like with like religion, it's a bit different because I think scientists
Oh
just
no, it's
have a
not.
bit more
You're
practical.
religious. You have a
Well,
belief.
let him finish. Let him finish. Let him
Well,
finish.
no, I think you do say it like correctly because I do put a lot of, and no pun intended, a lot of faith in science. But of course, I do think it's also important to question it. But like, it's like the what was it, antithesis of magic, I would say.
Now, can you
But,
notice
Dude, I
notice
don't
what I'm
know
gonna
where you got that
notice
from.
what I'm gonna discover when I ask you these questions. Okay. Okay, so can you name me one of these scientists? Because you're talking about, as it were, this group of the wise ones, basically. Your version in your worldview, the group of the wise ones. Can you name me one of them?
that believes the Earth is like round.
No. Just name me one of the quote unquote scientists that you talked about.
Oh, I don't know, like Professor Dave. Really know him.
That's
You
a
just really
Dave.
say
Wait,
that.
hang on. I didn't hear you clearly. Say again.
Oh, Professor Dave explains from YouTube.
Professor Dave,
Yeah,
the YouTuber.
yeah. I mean, if you had to
Gregory,
name
no
one
matter how
scientist,
bad you thought it was, it's so much worse.
Hey,
Hold on.
Orbmas,
Let me give you another
Orbmas.
shot.
All right. Hold
Let
on.
me give you another shot.
I gotta
Hang on.
I gotta address this quickly. Sorry, Gregory. Has to be
Go
done.
ahead.
Right. So Professor Dave is a YouTuber, right, who
yeah,
dropped out of college and to pursue a music career, which also failed. Okay, he started a YouTube channel called Professor Dave Explains, where Professor Dave explains to us in his videos how he just thought it would be a fun name and how he's not actually a professor. He's not actually an expert in anything. He actually writes scripts and hires people to write scripts, and he reads them out. And he never was expecting his channel to take off the way it did. Right, and now he dropped out of college, and he did a couple of days teaching at a university when his teacher left, and then that didn't work out, so he got kicked out of that, and blah blah blah. Right, this is,
yeah.
and then so now what he does is he bullshits ignorant globe earthers. No offense, people that don't know the arguments for the flat Earth side, right? And then he says that flat earthers claim this and that, right? And in between, he's mocking, ridiculing, acting super toxic, right? And strawmanning us, right? Putting out false arguments, false maps, false models, and then debunking them to trick people, right? And gets millions of views doing it, right?
Yeah.
If this is the one scientist that you could come up with is a fake professor on YouTube, right? That makes
Well,
live
does
videos.
does Einstein count? I don't know.
Because one, he's dead now. Been dead a long time.
Back to
Yeah.
you, Gregory.
Oh, no, I agree.
I think
Like
I don't want to like at this point get like washed. What Gregory said is you believe in these people the same way that you would believe in priests or whatever. And you mentioned a person who's not even a scientist. Why did you think he was a scientist in the first place? Because
I
he
mean,
spits all the same rhetoric, and you can't tell the difference. But the thing is, you should maybe look inward on why you can't tell the difference between a scientist and someone that just gets up on the soapbox and parrots what you think is science. That you can't tell the
Guys,
difference between them. Professor Dave has never done an experiment in his life.
I have a really important just
but
to interject here because I'm not saying that Professor Dave dropped out of college. I see that he has a master's. I'm seeing conflicting information with what's. That's all.
Yeah.
I'm
Look,
bringing
Just
dude,
forth.
conflicting
I'll just
information about what his
like, he's
degree
mainly
actually is.
I know, but you said he dropped out of college. That's a very different
He
circumstance
did.
than.
He did. He dropped out of college after he got his bachelor's. It's uncertain whether he went back to get the master's.
Yeah, everything I said about Professor Dave, that was just me parroting information straight out of his mouth, in which I have the clips.
That's what
for.
he said. Yeah,
Okay.
he made a
His
video
description
about this.
says
Dave
receiving
himself.
an MA in the
He's
latter
openly
at
admitted
Cal State
this.
Northridge.
He has an
Right, thanks,
IMDb
J-Dog.
page as well. He's an actor.
And we're talking to the other guy, so go back on mute.
I know.
So anyways,
It's important to get the facts right. I'm just.
that's true. That's true. So
You got
anyways,
to salvage Dave's
Orbmas,
freaking reputation.
yeah,
so, but yeah, so
Orbmas.
yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah. So to clarify where we are right now. So I asked you that, and then Indio just explained to you. You should really take that to heart and internalize that. Your initial answer to my question is basically to appeal to basically a mention of a fraudulent person because he didn't make this clear until he got popular, right? He just
I mean,
hoped
like how I said,
that
scientists are like
he
they're one collective.
well he just hoped
mind
that he would
almost.
just send out the content initially for a little while, and then eventually push came to shove to where he did explain no and all those things they just told you about him. He became explaining all these things about himself, And then you mentioned Einstein. Okay, so there's that. But he's dead and
Even if
buried now for a long
scientists were a
time.
collective, he wouldn't be in it.
You know. So name me one living scientist, and just to help you understand me and what I mean by what I say, I'm saying the term scientist only in the sense of identifying the adherents of scientism, and I'm even granting a detail which is basically your version in your worldview, that is the wise ones, the clerics, right? These allegedly doctoral university graduate, academicians that are official and they got all this knowledge, right? That idea. So name me one living one.
Yeah. I'll answer. I just want to real quick also say, when I view scientists, like it's mainly like a one big like collective almost. So when a scientist says something, it's like a collective of them said it. But the answer your question, I don't know. I guess Neil deGrasse Tyson, not I don't know. Brian
Okay.
Cox. I mean, these are just some
He's a
popular
book writer.
scientists. But
Okay. So
Can I ask
the
you a
reason
question?
I
I
ask
think
you
this is
this
very
is to
important.
go ahead and then I
Gregory, let me ask you this real quick. You think, like, when you think of science, what makes someone a scientist, and what are they doing that makes what they're saying a scientific claim in the first place?
Sorry, could you repeat that? So,
What makes someone a scientist? When you say scientist, what are you imagining they are or
yeah,
what they do?
yeah. I think obviously they have to have a lot of education, and so they'll go through the years and years upon wherever they can get the education from universities and all. And it involves a lot of topics like physics, mathematics, all sorts of where you need variables, I guess. But like there's a lot of like factors of
So if I
education.
go in the
And
library and memorize the entire fucking textbook section of the scientific and physics textbooks, now I'm educated. Now I've read a lot about physics. Now I'm a scientist because I magically read a bunch of books.
um, I guess
That's
so.
still
I
what's
guess
make you a
I guess
scientist.
I think
Well,
like degrees
scientists
and
do
all like
experiments. Scientists do experiments. That's what determines whether it's science or not. So to determine whether something is actually a scientific endeavor, it has to have an experiment that's been tested in the natural world. That's what determines. That's why people have put their faith in science, is because they think, hey, this claim, they went out into the natural world and they tested it. And then the natural world affirmed whatever their hypothesis was, right? And that somebody else went out and they repeated it and they also did it. And now we know that that's a so-called scientific fact because a bunch of people went out and they performed the same thing. And that if I went and looked at what they did, I could go out and I would also get the same result, right? That's what science is. It's not the scientists, it's the experiments.
yeah.
So number one, the word science is polysemous. It has multiple senses. That's one delineated sense. Number two, um, at best, the point that Indio just conveyed to you is that one is not wise or truly knowledgeable about some sort of empirical facts about the world just by studying literature, any given textbook or encyclopedia, whatever have you. Number three, uh, it's up to them in their worldview, those who are as we're in the circle of scientism, to define what they mean by science, right? To define what they mean, not to determine what the word means, but to define what they mean, to articulate what they mean. So, anyways, you told me two names such as Brian Cox and Neil deGrasse Tyson. Okay, so there's two. Now, the reason I'm asking you this is because you speak about scientists in the same way, like for example, the same way that a Roman Catholic Christian speaks about the magisterium. You speak about them in the same way, and not just you, but pretty much everyone speaks about the so-called scientists, quote unquote, in the same way. Now, appreciate this contrast. With the Roman Catholic Christian, for instance, there is an actual definitive, distinct quantity of members of the magisterium, and they're all living. Right? They're all alive today. You can actually stand in a room and see them all standing there or sitting down. Right? In contrast to the quote unquote scientists, for those who believe in scientism, there's no such thing. There is no such thing.
Quick,
Right?
what's
This is why I
magisterium?
critique. This is why I critique this rhetoric as the phantom scientist magisterium, because you talk about the scientists as though there's this distinct body of these wise ones who are so educated, who learn so much, who've gotten all these degrees, and who know so much, but there is no such distinct group. So just by that alone, if there's an actual concretely real number of wise ones between the two worldviews, I would actually go with the Roman Catholic Christian before I would go with the Roman Scientist Magisterium. It's just this vague notion that no one actually fits into, in contrast to concretely real, definitive people who are in this category, who actually are real people that you could, if you are so privileged, to talk to, right? That's just to illustrate my point. My point is, you talk about the scientists, quote unquote, the same way the Jew, the Muslim, the Christian, the Hindu talks about their clerics. But in contrast to the Roman Catholic, for example, you don't actually have a definitive number of persons to even identify. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Brian Cox, for instance, like you just name dropped. It's not like they're a part of some distinct, definitive group. They're just
Oh
in
yeah,
this
they're
vague
more
nebulous category that
entertainers.
anyone can fit into.
Like yeah, I mean, I'd say yeah, I agree. Again, like scientists, just one big collective. How I view them.
You
Again,
see?
yeah, but yeah, I would agree.
So
As you said, I do have like a
yeah,
religious kind of view on them, but I think also at the same time, I think I would trust them more over like if someone was religious.
well, you say them as though there is some distinct group, but who you would even have the ability to recall or count among the quote unquote scientists would vary person to person within scientism. You're an adherent of scientism, right? You believe scientism. You, believer one, would not have the same identical group as believer two, and believer three, and believer four, and believer five, et cetera, et cetera. That's my point. In contrast to like the Roman Catholic Christian, where they all have the same distinct, definitive magisterium. All those men there in those robes in that room. So you don't actually have this group of wise ones at the top. There's no such thing in scientism. What actually is the case is you have all sorts of universities scattered throughout the world, throughout the Europeanized world, throughout Europe and the US and mostly those areas. Right? And there's a more or less greater or lesser consensus, right? And the way they gather consensus is really not that rigorous. It's rather spurious the majority of the time.
Spurious?
Like the majority of the time, for instance, for example, for the issue of so-called evolution, the vast majority of universities are not going to direct attention to the website made by doctoral university graduate academicians, right, called Darwin's Descent. They're not going to direct your attention to that website, but it's made by academicians who, for all intents and purposes, would be considered in the so-called scientist category. They are doctors of the subject, but you're hard pressed to hear the average university professor actually direct your attention to such a website and such doctors and consider what they say thoroughly. So whoever is categorized in so-called the scientists, it even varies it even varies between the actual doctors, the actual academicians themselves, let alone laymen like you who aren't even in academia.
Mhm.
So that's really what you have, which is really more comparable to most Jews nowadays. Like most Jews, they follow the rabbi in this area, and that area, and that area, and that area. They don't have something equivalent to like this overarching hierarchy, like with Roman Catholic Christians or Eastern Orthodox Christians. So that's really what science is mostly like. You just follow your local university professor. The scientist university professor is to, well, let me say it this way: the local rabbi is to the local Jewish community as the local university professor is to its students and the believers of scientism. Why am I explaining all this? Because I want you to actually have an accurate perspective of what you actually are dealing with. Because they don't teach you to actually analyze your belief system and your worldview. Because they've given you a worldview. They've given you beliefs about what is, how you know what you know, how you ought to think, how you ought to behave, this, that, and the third. They've given you narratives about history. They've given you narratives about human nature. They've given you narratives about what's going on in the future, what may happen in the future. They've given you a worldview, but they just don't articulate these things to you. They don't bring these things to your attention. They just say the notions to you, and they just inundate you with these notions. They don't teach
What
you
kind
to
of
analyze and be epistemologically self-conscious and systematize your beliefs coherently.
What kind of narratives, for example?
Well, like I just explained, like I just mentioned earlier, at this evolutionism. Maybe you believe that, maybe you don't. But that is one of the notions, right? Or the notion that we live on a ball, or the notion that we exist in a cosmic black void, or the notion that there's an innumerable plethora of these humongous solid, liquid, and/or gas balls flailing around in the black void, or Einstein's GR, et cetera, et cetera. All these different notions, all these different doctrines. But they don't teach you to systematize your beliefs. They don't teach you to systematize your beliefs and be self-conscious about your beliefs.
Did they not teach that?
Hey, Orbmas,
Yeah.
I just also wanted to point something out. So you came into our channel, right?
Mhm.
And you had the opportunity to speak with some very knowledgeable people. And after them spending time talking to you, when I asked you if you could repeat back to us anything, you said no, you weren't listening.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, but what you did do prior to coming in here is go on an anti-flat earther site.
Yeah.
Okay. So can I ask you, to be honest here, do you think you are an intellectually honest person?
I wouldn't say so. I think
So
I still
you
have to grow up, but overall, not really.
so going to a place to debunk the claims of people whose claims you have not heard. Seems logical to you?
Oh, no, well, I don't mean to debunk. I'm more
No,
so
I
trying
know
to
how.
understand.
I know what Professor Dave says, and he just sets up straw men that we don't support.
Yeah.
Is-
Oh, like
Prof-
I don't even like. I
Professor
just
Dave, but you
sorry, go ahead.
see, you decided we were wrong before you even entered this room. And instead of
Oh,
listening to what people had to tell you, you just shut it out. So no, you're not an intellectually honest person. You don't want to know.
yeah, I mean, I agree. That's what I said. But like I'll say, like I don't really understand all what Professor Dave is exactly saying. Like I'm trying to also learn, but I also came here to like get from the other perspective because I don't want to taint my like if I'm gonna. I know he's already gonna come his own bias, so I want to understand the other side before I start making up my own mind.
Dave builds straw men about what we claim, and then he destroys the straw men. So he'll say, flat earthers think this, and this is why it's stupid. But that's not what we think. And you had the opportunity today to find out what we actually think, and you chose not to.
Yeah.
So why are you
I mean,
here? Why are you here?
I mean, it was interesting to listen to. Like, and by the way, I
But
was
you're not really
listening.
listening,
Not
are
entirely. I
you?
wasn't taking the information. I mean, there's a lot of information. I am trying to somewhat listen, but I will admit I do have my own biases. Of
Well, of
course, yeah,
course
I
you do.
think
We
that,
all have our
yeah.
own biases. But the reason that we're flat earthers is because we're willing to challenge those biases. And you've made it clear that not only are you unwilling to challenge them, you're not even willing to hear the other side at all.
I think me coming here is like I'm already trying to challenge it
But you haven't. You said you didn't listen.
completely.
So how can you challenge anything we say if you don't even listen to what we say?
I listened,
But you couldn't repeat back anything anyone told you.
but it's a lot of information.
Okay, well, I'll just make it simple, Orbmas.
Okay.
The Earth is measured as flat. Water is flat at rest. The known Earth is 72% water.
Yeah.
We have many, many measurements that prove that Earth cannot be a sphere of the size that we are told it is. There are 0 measurements of surface curvature. 0. And we've been asking Globers for 10 years now, over 10 years, to bring in a measurement of surface curvature, and no one has ever done it. And that's the crux of the issue.
Okay.
So regardless of what these other people want to say about it, they will avoid that topic entirely, or they will make excuses. I want to see the globe laser tests that show the curvature at the rate that they're claiming.
But that's,
We have
that's
done
something I
all.
find.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. It's something I find interesting, right? Like I mentioned multiple times, we've gone out and we have all of these tests, right? Even tests done by scientists, by engineers. Okay, but this guy, he didn't ask to see any of them, right? It's almost like he's not interested at all in actually seeing any of the empirical evidence, or even interested in empirical evidence. And that seems to be the case with a lot of people, right? The amount of people we say, hey, we can prove that the Earth's not a globe. Like we can show you tests that it's not curving. Rarely do they, they're like, oh, okay, oh, that's interesting. Well, what about, Professor Dave or something like that? Right. So I just want to play a 30-second clip from Professor Dave. If it plays, we'll see if it works or not.
I don't
It's not
hear
playing,
anything.
is it?
I didn't watch the video.
What's that?
I didn't watch the video.
You watched the video where he says he's literally not an expert in anything
Oh,
at all?
like that clip before in the chat. I'll watch it. I can't hear it.
Yeah, I don't know why the music bot's not in here. It's not working. But yeah, watch it. It's a 30-second clip.
Yeah. I just watched it.
It was a
Yeah,
30-second clip. You weren't gone for 30 seconds.
as soon as you put it, I watched it. But he said that he consults people in those fields to make sure he's correct.
No, that's not the clip I was talking about. It's the one below that. Yeah, right. So he's just reading. So he's not checking if it's correct. He's just assuming that the people that, right, he's just appealing to authority, right? So, oh, somebody tells me it's correct, it must be correct. Okay, and then I'll just read the script, right? That's just an actor, right? That's not a scientist. When Gregory asked you to name a scientist and you named an actor who pretends to be a professor, right? That was the problem.
Okay, I understood.
And there's actually an expert in formal logic that points out, but he goes through and he reviews debates. Okay, Professor Dave debated a guy named Austin Whitsitt, who's a flat earther, and he debated another guy called David Weiss. Now, this guy Bruce McGuire, right? He's got a YouTube channel. He goes through and he basically every single time someone makes a fallacious argument, he points it out. He stops it. He pauses it. He calls out the fallacy. He explains what fallacy it was, why it was faulty logic, why it was disingenuous, and then he has like a tally to see who gets the most fallacies through debates. He tallies them. Professor Dave holds the record. He got 300 or 400 fallacies just in one single debate. Right? The guy is absolutely a snake, deceiving people. So you're more than welcome to to watch his content and just blindly believe it, but you should probably learn the actual arguments because he's not debunking our actual arguments. He's debunking strawman
Yeah,
arguments.
yeah. Like when I watch his content, I'm just I understand that I'm actually watching it from his perspective, so it could be also. And I've read some threads like which I always read about. Look at the other side. It's always going to be filled with biases, but like I agree. I also watched the Dave Farina one. Yeah, it wasn't really that good. It was a bit of a he wasn't even there to debate. I mean, it just did throw some hate rhetoric, but again, I don't think he is like a reliable source yet. That's why like I first even like when he was doing like like some history lessons, like that's how I found his channel. And through that, then I found he's making all these like I
Yeah,
heard
I'm not
flat
saying
Earth
all of
now.
his content's even wrong, right? I'm just saying that his flat Earth little gig that he's got, where that most of his views come from the flat Earth videos, right? It's like a little cash cow for him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is
and
negative. It is like it's drama basically.
yeah,
But he's gonna get
exactly.
the most amount of views. Well, like that's why I was like so interested. It's like wow, what is this? This is like and that's why I really again came here to really understand like where are these people coming from? Not so the actual information. Well, also, like now that I've spoken to you, I also think the information it is interesting to do some research. Um, Whatever it's gonna actually change my mind. I guess we'll see. But,
We're not going to change your mind, nor would we want to. The only one who can change their mind is you. And you'll only
Right.
do that with some honest investigation. And you're going to have to let go of some of the things that make you feel comfortable. This need to belong into this popular mythos. You're going to need to be able to set that aside and open your mind and decide for yourself what's true through honest investigation. And that can be very difficult for some people. But no, we don't expect to convince you at all. You're going to need to do that yourself.
It's more so like I think the term is like perspective taken. I think. Yeah, like I used to be way more religious, but once I started looking at it, in my mind. So and like Earth, I just didn't really give a shit about it. But now it's like okay, I guess I'll take a look at it. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't have anything else to say. I have enjoyed this conversation.
It
I
was
thank you all.
yeah, it
Thank
was
you all
good of
for
you to come
sharing your
in.
information.
Yeah, and there's a ton of since you're verified on the home server, there's so much information in there. If you scroll down on the main page, there's channels for everything in there. And feel free to ping any of us that are in here. We're also on the home server. So if you have any questions, shoot them at us anytime.
Yeah. All right, have a good day. Have a good rest of your day.
That was a pretty good combo.
Welcome to 24/7 Flat Earth Discord. Please try to remain civilized and cordial. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.
In case y'all interested, look at that link I sent to the open chat. It's just a link to a Gemini conversation I just made. I just asked Gemini to show me the list of all the names of the members of the Roman Catholic Magisterium. And with all the nuances considered, there's about 5,300 members.